going to begin the topic of personalized marketing with a personal story. It's a true story, so please bear with me. So the year was 2017, and at the time I had a 5-year-old son. Where are my fellow parents? Amazing, thank you. This will be an interactive session. There will be lots of questions, so bear with me. And we were about to go on vacation, and I was shopping online for clothes for him. I bought a pair of shorts, size 5, and I looked down below the fold to see what recommendations the retailer had in terms of sneakers, in terms of t-shirts, in terms of maybe hats. And do you know what was the first thing that I saw? I saw a crib. Now, my fellow parents, have you ever tried to wrestle a 5-year-old into a crib or tell them that they need to sleep in a crib? The retailer knew I was buying a size 5 shorts. There's no way that my kid would have needed a crib. But somebody must have bought cribs and some shorts in the same basket, and therefore it was being recommended to me as something that I may need. Now, that's not the horrible part of the story. Do you want to hear the horrible part of the story? The horrible part of the story, it gets worse, was that the retailer was my employer. The retailer, not only was the retailer my employer, it was my team's purview to own the recommendation engine. Cool. So I can tell you the retailer was Sears. That no longer surprises any of you. And I ran the CRM and loyalty function there. And the year was 2017, and for those of you that are familiar with Sears Canada, we knew that we were about to wind down. Now, when I took over that function at Sears, we were doing one mass email communication a day, which quickly turned into 2 mass communications a day, which quickly turned into 3 mass communications a day because we were under the gun to sell. We knew we weren't doing well. And so I wanted to make some small inroads, and eventually we started doing a lot more segmented and targeted marketing communication. But there were incredible challenges on both the back end and organization-wise. We had disconnected data, which means that if you came into the store and then you went online, and then you called in because your dishwasher was broken, and then you called in to book some travel, you were 4 different people as far as our system is concerned. We had no way to put all of your profiles together. And so we had no way to actually forecast what you needed. We were, like I said earlier, we were under the gun to perform. We had serious pressure to sell, and meet our pretty demanding revenue targets, which we were very far behind. And what we were measuring was not the best thing. We were not measuring sales and conversions, we were measuring eyeballs because that's what the organization was used to. That's what the merchants wanted, and the marketing team who supported the merchants, that's what they delivered. And of course, as any marketer in the room will tell you, we were pressured to do more with less. And so even though eventually with all the targeting and all the communications that my team had put in place, we made the email channel to be the #1 sales channel in e-com for Sears, it was too little too late. And I'm not saying that this was the result or the main cause or the only cause for Sears declaring bankruptcy, but it absolutely alienated our customers. We were irrelevant as far as they were concerned, and we faced silent customer attrition. Now, why am I telling you this? Is because I know what it feels like to be delivering personalization against these kinds of odds, with these kind of systems, and with these kind of organizational pressures and senior C-suite alignment. I've been there. So let me tell you why I'm here. I'm a huge fan of personalization, and after 20 years in corporate organizations, I've obviously told you all about Sears, but I was born and raised at American Express, and went on to Home Depot. I worked with Air Miles, which is Canadian's largest coalition loyalty program, and the oldest as well. It was the grandparent of coalition loyalty worldwide. I spent some time with Bond. I see there's somebody from Bond over here. We talked about Sears, which I try not to talk about, but I can't help myself. And then I ended my corporate career with Loblaw, who's Canada's largest retailer for groceries, and the Bay, which is Canada's oldest department store retailer. And then I left corporate and started my own company called Radical Loyalty, and Radical is not a spelling mistake. It is CLE, which is a botanical term. It means the seed, the root of a plant. And so what we do is we design and we redesign a loyalty program, but we also look for that seed of insight in your proprietary transactional data to help you solve your problems. Where does it hurt? And then create personalized one-to-one marketing communications. So let's start with personalization. Please ask you to take out your devices. Like I said, it will be an interactive session. You see a QR code in the top left-hand corner. There's also, you can go to slido.com and enter that code. And what you're going to see in front of you is a word cloud. In one or two words, can you tell me how you define personalization? What does personalization even mean to all of us? Because I suspect we may have slightly different definitions of what that actually means. We have relevancy, amazing, thank you for being the first brave person to answer. Don't make me hanging custom, I like it. Targeted. Targeted gets bigger, I love it. Anybody else? Unique. Relationship, relevant, personal, customized knowledge, right? Understanding, familiar, invisible, relevant, okay, great. You know what I'm not seeing? I'm not seeing getting your name right in an email. Is that not what personalization means? No? Okay, amazing. I'm also not seeing getting your voice balance right in the email. That's also not personalization. I love that. Now, there's still two people there's still two people typing. Let's give them a chance to answer. Bespoke. Okay, great. Big data. Okay, so I think we have a good sense of what personalization means to each and every one of us, and I think the main one is relevant, which absolutely spot on. Now, how frequently do you employ personalized communications in your marketing? In all of our communications, somebody answered, amazing. Most communications, okay. Most communications still leading the charge. In most communications. I suppose it matters to which degree you mean personalization. And then finally, again, word cloud. What has been the biggest barrier to implementing personalization in your communications? Data. Scale, privacy interest, time, resources, single source of truth. Okay. So when I was talking about disconnected data, that resonated? Resources, data, scale, privacy. Gotcha. Line of business priorities, money, complexity, regulation, time. Okay. Okay, so I'm really glad that we're on the same page here. Let's talk about why I'm so passionate about relevance. Why is this important? The stat that blows me away every time I look at it is that 38% of customers are willing to walk away from brands because of poor personalization efforts. Now, can I see a show of hands of who does not want to lose more than a third of their customers? Yeah, that's kind of scary. And there's this huge disconnect in terms of what customers expect and what it is that we're delivering. Now, 50% of us say that most of our communications are personalized, but that's not what customers are experiencing. So on one hand, customers know that we have the data, we have the technology, we have the know-how to deliver on personalization. They absolutely know that, and 73% of our customers want better and expect better personalization, as Mark But at the same time, they're not seeing it. And I can't stress that enough. There's a disconnect with what we think we're putting out and what the customers are receiving. Part of it could be definition. If we customize the image, or if we use your name, that's not what customers are experiencing as personalization. To them, personalization is something that is relevant and that is useful and something that they can provide value and meaning to them in real time. So 61% of our customers are saying that they're treated as a number, and only 22% of them feel like their bank is anticipating their needs. Is this a shock to anybody? No. This is where her next slides would be good.
Yeah, like the slide is advancing here, so I don't.
Oh, okay. That's not good. So I can talk to you about what's on the next slide. So the business case for personalization is pretty clear. The personalized travel market is predicted to be almost $450 billion in 5 years by 2030. That is huge. And that is definitely not the slide. But recent research shows that companies that utilize personalization can boost their revenue by up to 15%, depending on the industry that they're in, which is pretty significant. And 89% of marketers show positive ROI in their personalized marketing communications. But the stat that I love the most is that you don't have to increase your overall marketing budget. It's about shifting from left pocket to right pocket. So, thank you. If you were to move a quarter of your budget from mass to personalized marketing, you would increase your ROI by 20%. How does that sound? Yeah? So, what I wanted to share with you was a couple of case studies. And what I'm going to be talking about is fairly straightforward. These are simple things that you can do tomorrow. These are not the complicated, connected media cases like Mike was talking about earlier. This is simple and straightforward. So what you see in the top right-hand corner is I've created a guide that's specifically for you, the do's and don'ts of personalization. It has a couple of case studies, it has best practices, it has some of the statistics that I talked about. It's quite a useful piece. And here are 6 potential things that you can do. I'm only going to talk about the first 3 in the interest of time, but the rest of it is included in the guide. And these are financial services examples. I'm also happy to talk to you about specific travel examples and more retail examples. Just please reach out. So the first one I'm going to talk about is personalized offers from American Express. So Amex has Amex offers, which they communicate through all of their channels, and they're able to create custom segmented offers based on your previous spend. It could be retail, it could be restaurants, it could be travel related, and the idea is that 1, they drive incremental spend, and then 2, they communicate to the member that my financial institution knows me, my financial institution provides me with value. So it's a win-win really. The second one is personalized spend reporting. 20 years ago, so I'm aging myself, we at American Express started doing annual spending reports. They were only for the premium customers, so they were for the gold and the platinum status members. And it took us months to create a physical booklet of customer spend by category. And by the time it was delivered in the mail, it was horrendously out of date. Now this information is so easily created. You can absolutely categorize your customer spend by merchant category and provide it back to them to put them in charge of their own spending, to let them know where they're spending and overspending. And people can even set budgets in a category, and in some cases, it will blow them away. Like, I don't want to know how much money I spend on food delivery services. I really don't, but I probably should. And it makes me think that I am much more financially savvy and in control of my spending. And it also provides an incentive to me as a card holder to consolidate my spend with that card so that I can keep track of everywhere I spend and make that card first part of the wallet. And then the last example that I wanted to share with you was from Bank of Montreal. So when I was working with Air Miles, one of Air Miles' biggest challenges, it was comprehension of the currency. Our main competitor, Aeroplan, was much more straightforward. Every time you spent $1, you got 1 point. So the 1-for-1 ratio was easily understood. Air Miles was a lot more complicated because depending on where you spent, the ratio of the earn was different and it was not 1-for-1. You could get 1 mile for $20, for $30, for $10, for $40, so it varied. So when I told you you got 1,000 miles, people had a hard time understanding what that actually meant. And so when we were running a credit card acquisition campaign, it was hard to make it tangible what we were giving you and how valuable it truly was. And as you know, a credit card is like a nebulous service. You don't actually experience it like you would if you walked into a retailer and bought yourself a shirt. What we wanted to do is we wanted to contextualize what that particular bonus was and make them feel like it was attainable. So what we did was we targeted the Air Miles collector base that did not have a credit card, and we wanted to add to our target audience. We took their initial Air Miles balance, we added the bonus to show them what their final balance was. So for instance, let's say my original balance was 3,000, you added 1,000, now I have 4,000. And so what we did was we translated my updated balance of 4,000 miles into where I can fly. So they gave me a choice of 3 different destinations that I can go to tomorrow, which would make me experience what it would be like as a card holder right there and then. And so what we were able to do was, one, drive pretty significant acquisition results, much better conversion rates than the control, but also we moved along that comprehension of what that mile meant in tangible, contextual terms to the prospective card holder. Okay? So I'm not going to go through all of the other case studies, but everybody knows gamification drives a lot more engagement. Case study here is from Monobank. It's a Ukrainian bank. Through their gamification, they're able to drive 1.3 million users daily to use their app. A recommendation engine, fairly straightforward, a way for, and many banks already do this quite well, is the ability to answer a few questions to provide one or a few recommendations based on the choices that they've made. And then finally, Wells Fargo has a customized card design where people can upload pictures of whatever they want, their family, their pets, etc., and have that printed out on their card base. So the point that I'm trying to make in summary is that we're currently not there with personalization. We as an industry are not meeting customer expectations. We're only meeting expectations of about 22% from a financial services perspective, where we're anticipating their needs well. At the same time, it's a financial no-brainer. It makes a lot of sense. The industry is just under $450 billion in 5 years, and you can increase your revenue by over 15%. You don't have to boil the ocean. You don't have to do absolutely everything. Your systems don't have to be perfect. Just start somewhere. Start with personalized offers. Start with personalized content. Start with spend reporting. Anything really goes. And what that does is that it reverses silent attrition. It allows you to consolidate spend, and as all marketers know, we are always asked to do more with less. And I can go on to talk about personalization ad nauseum, and I'm happy to do so, but I'm going to be pretty soon out of time. But what I did want to offer to you is this QR code will give you a free 1-hour consultation that I'm giving away. If you want to talk about how we can make any of these and other ideas possible for your organizations, please reach out, book some time with me. I'm happy to chat. Thank you. Are there any questions?
We got a few minutes to...
What is personalized travel? There's that statistic up there. I'm curious.
It's a good question.
As a category.
As a category, I'm not sure exactly how they came up with that number. It's actually a really good question. I probably need to dig into it. But personalized travel is based on travel recommendations. It's based on what you know about me, where I travel, how often I travel. For instance, would you know that I come to this conference every year? Or the fact that I just booked my travel. You know how many people I'm traveling with, you know all their names and ages, you know how long I'm going to be staying. You can pretty much figure out, is it a business trip? Is it a romantic trip? Is it a family trip? How long I'm staying, and so being able to provide me with recommendations based on that knowledge.
Any other questions? I might throw a question out there, just because oftentimes when we're doing stuff, personalization, I feel like it's like an often overused buzzword, but it's so badly implemented a lot of the time. So you kind of mentioned some of the quick wins. How would a company that is struggling to do it, besides kind of from the fundamental perspective, how would they maybe think about even getting the quick wins? How do they get there?
Absolutely. I think the first question to ask is, where does it hurt? From just an organizational perspective, what are you seeing that really is hurting the business? Is it a giant level of attrition? Is it declining sales year over year? Is it huge disengagement and most of the portfolio is not traveling? What are you trying to solve for? What is the customer behavior that you want to update and change? And start with that. Dig a little bit more into your primary data. If you can get zero-party data, even better. And then try to create and understand your customers as human beings. What challenges are they facing that are preventing them from acting with you? And then how can you speak to them like they're human beings? And from one human being to another, instead of one faceless organization to a number. And if those are your guiding principles, that's how you can solve for that big gap.
Any other questions? Cool. Well, thank you again, Leah. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
And for the next session, I'll hand it over to Michael. We've got a few panelists here focusing on more the future, which should be kind of interesting and exciting as well. So, Michael.
That sounds probably interesting and exciting.